If you've sincerely come into this video wanting to know if New World is worth playing in 2022, I can easily answer that with yes, you should play this game. Now, if you're looking for a more in-depth reason as to why this game appeals to me and why it might appeal to you, that's what this video is going to explore. I've said this before, and I say it again with all confidence, New World is the best new MMORPG on the market today. And I really want to dive into why it is that and what you can look forward to here in 2022 beyond the game itself, but the community as a whole, and why you should consider playing or returning to New World in 2022. And with that, hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Brian if you're new around here, and as a parent with 5 kids, I figured I'd answer this question as Asmongold put it.
Craft beer drinking bearded dad that just hangs out and plays on Friday night whenever his wife's out. You're gonna enjoy the game. It's gonna be great.
For all my fellow bearded dads out there in the world. Now, while I'm not a craft beer drinker personally, I have to say that New World really appeals to me both as a gamer, but also as a parent in very interesting and unique ways. When we had Josh Drive Hayes on the podcast, I said that New World actually appeals to a nostalgic part of my youth, and I think that's one of the core aspects what I identify with the game and the world, but we'll explore more in that here in this video. Now, for this video review, I want to dive into 3 key areas about New World and this year alone and answer the question, is it worth it, in a lot of detail. Those 3 areas are going to be what's coming to the game in 2022, what I want to see changed about the game specifically, and third, why I think New World is the game to watch out for this year alone. Basically, why I love this game. Now, while I've only put in 163 hours, probably nothing compared to the big streamers and content creators out there in the gaming space, note that those 163 hours have been a joy. They have been a real joy for me to play. But let's go ahead and dive into why New World is the best new MMORPG on the market today. And as such, it has actually the most potential as it enters into this new year. Now, obviously not all is perfect with the game, mind you, but New World continues to hold an active player base, to the contradiction of how others report its player base. You'll see it continually in the top 5, top 10 spots most played on Steam. And here's the real trick about all that. The numbers ultimately don't really matter if the core base is excited and engaged, because content is king. And New World has been delivering content each and every month, and they have big updates planned for this year alone. And that's what we're going to explore in part 1. What is coming? Why should you either consider playing, or why should you return for the new content? And first and foremost, one of the really cool, neat aspects that I've always appreciated about the sandbox that is New World, it's their weapon system, the mixing and matching. And as they add in new weapons, which we got one in November, the Void Gauntlet, changes up the base meta, it changes up how people approach the gameplay. It introduces new and interesting ways that you can, as a player, decide how you want to play and approach each and every encounter. But we already know new weapons are coming from earlier in 2021. But they've been confirmed in the recent developers blog. The blunderbuss is on the way. This is going to be kind of a shotgun based off of strength. I think that's going to be really interesting to see how that both changes PvE and PvP and how it changes your build up specifically. We also have daggers confirmed, which I think is going to be really interesting to see ultimately how that plays out within the world and space. We'll have to update you guys later as that becomes more solid as to how that the daggers are going to play specifically. And then finally, you have the great sword being confirmed as something that's being worked on, and I think that's going to be really exciting to see. Personally speaking, I think those 3 weapons alone introduce a whole new way to play and approach both PvE content and PvP content. Speaking of PvE content, I've been playing in the mutator system. What is a mutator, you might ask yourself? Well, it's the ability to modify dungeons. So what they're doing is that every week, new dungeons get kind of put into the mutator rotation with new various different, new mutators. There are different modifiers to how the game is played and how you interact with it. I went in unprepared and I went in prepared, and let me tell you, the dungeons will kick your butt. And that's actually, jumping ahead into part 3, one of the things I really do love about this game is the dungeon system. It's how beautiful and how just mind-blowingly wonderful the dungeon system is, aka the expedition system. Bringing that all the way back here, mutators are only going to improve that system. It's going to bring in a lot of drama, mind you. A drama because builds are going to be really specific. Various different mutators are going to change how you have to build your character out to be able to achieve and accomplish the goals within the expedition. And I love that. I love that personally as a player. I love how that's going to put PvE content to the test and help elevate it to see who can reach the coveted level 10. We went in with level 1 unprepared and got destroyed. Went in prepared and had actually a decent time, but it was clearly content that it's going to take, time, thoughtful approach, coordination with a oiled team. If oiled is the correct word, it is what it is in this video. And that, I think, is a real key aspect. The other aspect of what is coming in 2022 is content. The weapons, the mutators, and obviously fixing and adding in even more. We've already seen things leaked like new zones, and we don't know if that's going to be a part of the natural flow of every patch, but as that comes to more light, generally speaking, we're seeing an update, a bigger update now, around once a month. And if you were part of launch and you might have experienced bugs or seen bugs reported to you or said that the game is having issues with various bugs and cheaters, that has been addressed, which is really helpful. And a lot of the impact that had on the in-game economy has also been cleaned up, which is really impressive. And it's unfortunate that the devs had to spend that time early in the game focusing in on that, but now we've actually reached this maturity in terms of its game's rollout. And I think a lot of help in that is the PTR, in which that the devs get to preview newer features. So overall, what's coming is content, what is coming is communication, and what is coming is the things that we've been longing for as the player base in this game. Like I said, not everything in it is absolutely perfect, but if you're new to MMORPGs, that is part of the journey. A part of the journey is I was there when, you remember when X, Y, and Z happened? And it ends up being a key aspect. What I look for in this kind of game, and one of the reasons why it speaks to me so personally, is the devs communicate, and then they do the work, and then it gets better, and you can try different things. I think nothing else highlights this fact than the Winter Convergence questline and story and content. It just added more to the world of something that I enjoy. So that is what's coming in 2022. We got more events coming, we got more weapons, we got more PvE content, and for sure we'll see more PvP content and updates as well. So I'll be sure to keep you guys up to date on how that rolls out over the course of this next year. So if you haven't subscribed yet and you feel like I earn it, I'd love it if you did. And we have a goal of 100,000 subscribers here this year alone. Feel free to join in on that that expedition. Otherwise, we can always jump in with it later. Now, what do I want to see changed with this game specifically in 2022? This list isn't actually that extensive. As a bearded dad, as somebody who enjoys video games, obviously my approach to gaming has usually been more holistic. I like games that I can either just hardcore dive into and at the same time pull back and play a little bit more casually until the next time where I am available for kind of that sprint. If you kind of think of that mentality, family comes first, holidays and all that are going to come up. We know that Christmas is on the way. We know that these events and birthdays like that will happen. And so I need that flexibility in my life. And I think New World actually offers that, but they could definitely do a better job. And first things first, post-level XP progression. New World added the gypsum system, and I probably could be butchering the name, but essentially you might have heard of the old RNG-based high watermark system that has been completely replaced with an expertise system, meaning that you go and you do the content that you like, and you get gypsum, and then you can use that to kind of roll into and increase your overall expertise in any particular weapon slot or gear slot. It's actually way more advantageous, and I actually prefer the system hands down overall. But here's where they could improve it. That post XP level 60 progression. Once you hit 60, XP is completely worthless. So they need to make a decision in terms of XP rewards. They either need to be funneled into something else, be it maybe coin, faction reward, or essentially like, map zone control reward or something of that nature. Or my personal, what I'd love to see is that you still quote unquote level up post level 60, and every level would actually give you more of that gypsum or expertise, kind of playing into the systems at hand, giving you a level up loot box, chest box, something that would actually reward you with some, cool stuff, whether it coin, whether it, glamour, I don't care. Like at the end of the day, I don't like it when XP doesn't have value. And one of the cool things I've liked about my experience all the way up to level 60 was everything I was doing was rewarding with me with XP. I actually really appreciated that. It never has to be enough. An XP level progression for endgame doesn't have to be the most efficient or effective thing to do. It just needs to exist. And so hopefully we'll see that. They've talked and hinted at that on the official forums, but we don't have an official picture of that. I'm looking forward to seeing more about that. So that's something I want to see in this year happen. I also want to see a party finder type of tool, not auto matching. I think auto matching in a game that like New World that gives you so many choices, especially in the mutator system, is only going to lead to even more drama because people are going to get put in and matched with somebody who is not prepared, especially in the mutator system. In typical expeditions, maybe we could see that a little bit better nowadays, but overall, some way of listing content that people are wanting to do at the particular time so people could easily search it and find it rather than have to spam chat. I think as they add in more dungeons and more content, that piece is going to become an absolute must for the community itself, especially for the various content that ends up getting listed. Also, speaking of just partying up with people, the party UI tool needs to be sincerely updated. It is just very bare bones, very bare minimum. If you've ever played this game so far, you know what I'm talking about. It's like a name and it's a bar. And at the end of the day, I'd love to see some more UI control come into it. So I'm really focusing in on the party UI, but overall, more UI control I think would be ultimately very nice to see, allowing people to kind of rearrange their UI elements here this year. And then finally, Outpost Rush is a game mode that you get to at level 60. And personally, I'd like to see it open up before level 60. I think that would be really nice. But overall, it's designed to be an end game PvP component so they can keep it at level 60, but they need to offer cross server matching so that queue times can end up being much more advantageous depending on your time of day and your server. You might not have an active server that really cares about PvP, but you might. It would be unfortunate to kind of be stuck or having to be forced to transfer to quote unquote an active PvP server. I love the content in itself, especially as it relates to end game gear progression and even wealth generation. And I just think that allowing it to expand to the other servers, especially on your cluster, would overall get matches going faster. And I think that could be a real big boon to PvPers out there like myself in the world. Why, number 3, this is the third thing, why I love this game, why New World is the game to watch out for. Well, simply put, and you've heard this probably from other reviewers out there on the internet, the visuals, sound design, gameplay, honestly, those things are top notch. The sense of scale that New World gives you, the sense of wonder that this game delivers, to me as a kid who was born in Nacogdoches, Texas, East Texas, that kind of mindset, I think that is my nostalgic connection. Like I was talking with Josh Strife Hayes on the podcast, I alluded to that earlier. I think one of the things that draws me into Final Fantasy XIV is my sense of wonder and nostalgia for Final Fantasy as a franchise. And New World is a brand new game. It has no roots in nostalgia. And I found that why am I drawn to it from a nostalgic perspective? What is tricking that sense of my mind? And it is the sense of the East Texas forests and woods and that exploration and that growing up in that area, that I think that's one of the things that really appeals to me. Now, I also want to say that this community, the community around New World itself, is, I think, some of the best that I've seen. Yes, we're going to always, like with any community, have, toxic people. Like there isn't a game that doesn't. Like I would say, like you pick any game, and if you don't see the toxicity, you might need to look in the mirror. Or you might just be blessed and not actually being exposed to that. And when it does happen, it ends up being a little bit more in your face overall. But the fact that I think the devs are also communicating, and you have the forums with lots of different message and updates, and maybe that can get better, and maybe it will get better. And I think that's their personal challenge to themselves, being able to consolidate the information, roll that over to the developers, and give gamers updates. I think that's huge. But overall, like as a developer myself, I really do respect the work and the hustle and what I see. I think it's truly impressive if it's not considered some of the best out there on the market. And that's where I know I'm going to probably lose some people who don't work in that space. Like if you actually work in that space, it's kind of like watching another doctor do, surgery. You're like, oh, that's actually pretty impressive. But overall, it might not necessarily, answer the problem of why we're having surgery in the first place. And ideally, that's where we're going to see them get here this year alone. Like I said, New World's already got a lot of devs, like updates planned. They've got new zones. They got so much more, and they've been doing these updates every month. At the beginning, they were doing them too fast. And I was like, they got to slow down and fix the ship and make sure that it's not like they're not introducing new problems, which is what they were doing at the very early launch of this game. But we're well past that now. Here we are in a brand new year, and the update schedule and cadence seems perfect. And I think that when we start to see bigger updates like new weapons, new zones, and new dungeons start rolling out, especially with new systems that support all that, I think that's when all of a sudden you feel really respected as a player. And so I'm happy to support and play this game with my time, and I'm happy to put in another 163 hours, another 500 hours into this game, and I plan to easily this year. Especially just in fishing alone. I get lost in a lot of the little systems that it's nice for me, whether I have a little bit of time or a lot of time, that I can find something to do in the game. And I feel privileged because I also have a group of friends that will come and join me on these expeditions and do the content with me. So that ends up being also this really good social group experiment that we're having, especially as adults. Not necessarily drinking craft beer, but I do have some fine scotch behind me that I might have to pop open for our next dungeon dive in the game itself. Now, I've talked about how I've enjoyed the dungeons, and I think the mutator system is exactly what this game needs to take the content that they already have and breathe new life into it. One of the best things that I think you can do in these long form games is create awesome things, and then at the same time keep those awesome things relevant. And the mutator system does just that. I'm very excited for more people to experience it. Now, the final thought is that the sense of scale and exploration for New World and myself is unparalleled. I find myself constantly running off in a direction only to then go into another 5 or 6 different directions before I finally reach my goal. As a player, I really appreciate that. That experience in and of itself is worth its weight in gold, and it's something that I continue to enjoy to this day. It's one of the things that I always appreciate. Every time I log into New World, I might have a destination, and along that destination, it isn't that they artificially inflate little quests. It's that the game in and of itself is so inviting. It pulls me from place to place to place naturally, so that by the time I reach my destination, I end up having this very personalized journey where essentially, yes, it'd be more efficient to run in a straight line to reach said goal. And efficiency brain says that is the best thing, but I'm able to turn off and I'm able to distract my efficiency brain and end up having this wonderful adventure. And that's one of the things that New World does so well, that I think it'd actually be an experience that you yourself might enjoy. It might not, because at the end of the day, I think there's definitely a group of gamers out there who think they like MMORPGs, who they think they like this style of game. And at the end of the day, they get distracted by every other game that comes out, and there's nothing wrong with that either. If you're having fun, that's essentially the thing. That's the goal. Despite what maybe 2022 will bring with other games. At its core, I think New World's worth a shot. If you haven't checked it out, be sure to keep an eye out. They've been doing various different sales, discounting the game for like up down to $25, which is a steal because there is no subscription fee. You can pay your fee and you can play this game to your heart's content. You can set it down, you can return to it. At the end of the day, the game's ready and raring for you to dive in. Hopefully you found this video, these thoughts from this bearded dad useful. And if you did, and you feel like I earned it, leave a like, leave a comment, let me know what you like, or if you have any questions about the game that I can answer for you in an upcoming video. That's going to be it for me, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Hopefully you have a fantastic day. Hopefully I see you in my next video. But until then, take care.
I just want to say I'm really glad you're feeling better, and I love the videos. Well, I love you too. Michelle? Shoot for the moon, and so even if you fail, you'll reach the stars. Go for the 100K subscribers. Yeah.